You know what your problem is? You live in a fantasy land.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is the first video I'm doing on the back of the February Fantasy Stories tag. So this was a challenge that was set up by a whole bunch of booktubers, which I'm going to list in a second, which is a great idea. It was 4 prompts for what you're going to read in February that were fantasy based, and basically I started with one book, and because I didn't massively love it, I wanted to I thought, okay, I'll do a video with 2 books, and then I thought, well, actually I'm going to jump into a 3rd book, and I'm going to talk about 3 books, but the 3rd book I'm going to talk about is not really in the February Fantasy Stories tag, but it relates to them. So just first off, very grateful to this whole list of booktubers that decided to do this challenge and invited anyone to join in. So just off the bat, Bookish Bryants, I think they may have come up with the idea, I'm not sure, but a lot of people say they're the leader of the challenge. So Bookish Bryants, Steve Donahue, Mindy's Book Journey, The Booklectic, B&B Books, Hooked on Books with Chris, Michael K. Vaughan, Jason's Weird Reads, Nerdy Narrative, David Wiley, Jim Reads Too Slow, and Sean D. Standfast. All of those people are the people that are hosting this challenge. So I'm very grateful to those people for allowing anyone to do it, because I'm just this little guy from Portsmouth who has decided to do the challenge. So I initially said that I was going to read The Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle, which is here. And then I said I was going to read Michael Moorcock's Elric of Melniboné. And then I was going to read Kafka's Metamorphosis. And I was going to read Stephen King, a novella to finish off that was the urban fantasy bit. So this was classic fantasy. This was sword and sorcery. The Kafka was dark fantasy, and the Stephen King was urban fantasy. That's the idea for my responses for the 4 prompts. But once I read that one, I'll tell you why I didn't love it in a moment. I didn't really want to do a video where it's just a really negative video, because I don't really want this channel to be full of, this is why I don't like this is why I DNF this is why this sucks, or that's why I just don't want to do that on my channel. So I thought, well, I'll wait a minute and I'll read this one. And I did really like this one. I'll tell you why in a second. So that was cool. So I thought, well, I might do a video with those 2. And then I got the urge to read a 3rd book that wasn't part of the prompts, but I thought I might sneak in another fantasy book. It's much bigger than the 250 page, I think it was 250 page limit, I think it was. But anyway, this one was much bigger than that. But I thought, well, it's still a fantasy book, and I've been dying to read it, and I was just in the mood to read another one. I thought I might slip that one in before I read the other 2. They're in the February Fantasy Stories prompts. So that was my first dally into Brandon Sanderson. So, yeah. So I want to talk about that. And I might have done a video just on this, but as it's February Fantasy Stories, I thought I could incorporate the 3 of them into a video that's a little bit more interesting. So, to start off with, The Lost World, Arthur Conan Doyle. I was looking forward to reading this, but I was aware that it was released in 1912. It was published in 1912. So with that, I thought, you know, when you read something that old, you are reading it on the understanding that some of it could be dated. I do think this is dated. So there are lots of reasons why you should read it. There are lots of reasons why it should be seen as a classic. Lots of things I enjoyed about it. But I was just put off by the stuff that's a bit out of date. So I'll explain what I mean. I love dinosaurs. I love the plot. I love how influential it is. I mean, it literally put the idea of that Lost World thing where they find somewhere that's got dinosaurs or weird creatures or mysterious happenings in this lost world. This was the book that put that on the map. So there was Journey to the Centre of the Earth by Jules Verne, which I have in my bag over there that I want to read soon. So that was written before. So it wasn't like he came out of it from nowhere, but he really put that idea on the map, really. So obviously a lot of other people have done this since. And there's been loads of adaptations of this on film and TV. So yeah, it's great that it's so important and influential, and it's definitely worth a read just from that point of view to see where these ideas come from. And there are lots of good things about it, like the descriptions are good, and the characters are fully rounded, as in they are real people. For me, they're not particularly likable people. I mean, the main guy, George Challenger, it just seems to be a bit of a dick. That is fine, because I mean, the two Alfred Bester books that I do want to do a video on them one day. Those two Alfred Bester books, the Demolished Man and The Stars of My Destination. Those two books haven't got particularly likable characters, but I absolutely love those books. So it's not like you have to like the characters, but the reason why I don't particularly like George Challenger actually relates to why I kept being removed from the ideas and worldview of the book itself and the narrator's voice. So that kind of does interfere with my enjoyment of it. So I was enjoying there's loads of pterodactyls in this, and I love pterodactyls. I think they're awesome dinosaurs, and I love dinosaurs anyway. So that's all good, and I do like the just general concept of it. But there's loads of that white man's burden in there about civilizing the savages. It uses the word savages now and again. It sort of made me snigger a bit when there's a character in it that's this big black guy, and the character's name is Zambo, which sounds extremely like Sambo, which was like, really? But, 1912, you've got to kind of think that this might come up now and again, and praise the times when it doesn't, but not necessarily go crazy when it does occur, I think, because it is obviously of its time. There's, I mean, that when he's introduced, he does say something like, Conan Doyle does say something like, he was as strong as a horse and just as stupid, or something like that. It's a very odd line. You think, okay. So there's a little bit of that going on, and there is this idea that this sort of the sort of white Europeans are far more intelligent, advanced, and adventurous, and just generally great compared to the natives and the half breeds that they meet, which they mean Latinos. So there's some of the language is a bit archaic, but also I'd say the spirit of the book is a bit archaic as well. But there's some really cool adventurous things in there, and I think it's really important to read this stuff to see where these ideas come from. And it's nice not to be too sensitive about it, because otherwise you won't be able to read the classics. So yeah, that was my thoughts on Lost World. So I kept getting removed from the book because of those aspects of it. So it stopped me from really loving it, but I did still enjoy bits of it, and I'm really pleased I read it. So The Lost World, Arthur Conan Doyle. Elric of Melniboné. This is something that I was really looking forward to, because I did have a little taste of this when I was younger, and I read two of the books that were random books that I found. The first one I read, I discovered later on, well, when I got to the end, that it was the last Elric book. So I couldn't believe my luck. I didn't know any better then, and you couldn't look up Goodreads in those days and see what number in the series it was. So there wasn't any internet in those days. So that was a bit of an accident. So there's been a big gap and a lot of stuff I've forgotten about. So I was looking forward to reading this because I thought I'd like it. I read it really quickly. I read it in like a day or day and a half or something, very, very quickly. You can rattle through this quite quickly, and it's very easy to read. The pace is... the pace in Lost World, to be fair, is something you could praise. It's very quickly written. But the pace in this is very quick, because there's quite a lot happens. And I also love the fact that Elric is not a faultless hero. He's quite fragile in some ways. And that added an extra tension in the book, which I thought was really cool. I did enjoy this a lot, and I'm going to read more of the Moorcock Elric books. As soon as I get hold of them. I wanted to buy the next one in the series very quickly after getting that. I got distracted and bought something else. But yeah, Elric of Melniboné, I did really enjoy this, and definitely worth reading, because I don't really think it's dated. I don't know if I've missed something, but it didn't feel dated. I mean, I know it's a lot more recent than 1912, but that didn't feel so dated, that one. Elric of Melniboné, that was just an easy read. It was really enjoyable, and didn't have any hassle with that one. So, This one isn't part of the February fantasy story, so if you think, what's he doing just randomly chucking this one in, I apologise to all those millions of people hosting the February fantasy stories, but I did think it was a nice opportunity to talk about this. So, The Final Empire. I didn't really know what to expect. I was quite happy to get the experience where I've read it, knew something about it, but didn't really touch me or whatever. It didn't really get me going, but it really did. I absolutely loved it. I mean, The Lost World is how many pages? It's just over 200 pages, and that took me a week because I kept getting taken out of it and thinking, so it didn't pull me in a lot. So 200 pages took me a week. That took me a week, and it's nearly 700 pages. I couldn't stop reading it. I loved it, and to give you a sense of why I loved it, loads of really interesting characters that you kind of get to like a lot. Very endearing characters, very separate characterization in the characters as well. So there is a sense that they are very different people. The two main characters, Vin and Kelsier, are really interesting, and they've got their own demons, their own missions, these things they're trying to deal with and things they're trying to do, and it kind of weaves a little bit with their past and what they're trying to achieve. And there's a really ambitious mission that Kelsier is trying to establish with these other people. They're all thieves, with these other thieves. Very ambitious thing, and the stakes are high. It feels like the stakes are high. It doesn't get resolved in a really easy, tidy manner, which is brilliant. But it does resolve really well, and there's lots of nice humour moments in it. The development of the magic system is really interesting and very different. I've never seen anything like that sort of magic system before, and I think that's something that gets praised a lot by the booktubers. Brandon Sanderson's magic system, I think. And the idea of the subtext in the book is really interesting as well. There's lots about class in there. Not just in the obvious way that the class system exists, and one of the things they're trying to fight, and one of the things they're trying to overcome and change is this class system. It's not just about that, but it's really interesting the way the characterizations reflect class. So the middle class people in the, or not even the middle, the upper class people in the book, they have certain expectations of themselves and of the poor underclass. And the underclass also have certain expectations of themselves and of the upper class. There's lots of assumptions, there's lots of stereotypes, there's lots of prejudices that are in the main characters as much as there are in these sort of villainous characters that make it really grey area, a very complex tapestry that's been woven by Brandon Sanderson, and it makes it a really interesting read. So that's one of the best aspects of it, the fact that Kelsier, for example, has got certain things he says that he'll get sort of called out on now and again, and it's interesting because it's the sort of thing that gets thought about a lot, but this book is really tackling it really well. So there's a general point in the book, I think, that that idea of believing in the positive and believing that you can achieve more than you have been led to believe you could achieve can make great change and all that kind of thing. So I think that's a really positive and awesome thing to write. But it's just done really well. It's really well written. So quite often you can read a Stephen King book with quite an average plot, but the way he writes makes it a really good book. I think that's probably going to be the case for Brandon Sanderson. This is only the first book I've read by him, but that's definitely an impression I've got. So I'm looking forward to reading more. I've already got the second ones because when I bought this, I found this cheap, and I found the second one cheap as well. So I can't wait to get into that because clearly he knows how to write. So this is not in the February fantasy stories. It's far too big for that. But I wanted to include it because I wanted to sneak it in this month as part of the fantasy month. And I was well impressed. I thought it was brilliant. So clearly lots of people have read Brandon Sanderson on YouTube. I've heard nothing but praise about him, but I've heard a lot of people talk about him. So yeah, please make a comment if you know that stuff. If you want to say anything about what I've said about Lost World, please comment. And if you're a big fan of Elric and want to sort of talk about that as well, I didn't really find anything negative in the Elric book. I thought it was really cool. Please comment. I will do another video on the other two books I'm going to do, but I don't know whether to do the Metamorphosis one separately. Don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I've really enjoyed having this challenge. And next month, I'm doing the March Mystery Madness Challenge. And I've picked 4 books I'm really looking forward to reading, so that'd be cool. And it's really nice to get these challenges to steer what you're going to read. It's quite interesting. And it's nice to do it with other people, and sort of there's this community that I feel like I'm starting to belong to, which is really nice. So, yeah, that's really something I'm looking forward to. This is going to get chucked onto YouTube before something I've already scheduled to appear. So I'm going to put this up straight away. But in a couple of days, I think it's a couple of days, maybe even tomorrow, yeah, there's going to be a top 20 film scores. So please look out for that one. So I quite enjoyed doing that one. So if you're into film scores, or you're into composition, you're into soundtracks, then please have a look at that one. You might enjoy that one. And in the meantime, thanks again to the new subscribers, and see you later. Bye.
Paint me a picture